Welcome, friends, to another episode of the HEX Collective podcast, or actually video now as well. And today we have here, and I have here, my friend Natty, live from Houston, Texas. And I'm in Berlin, of course. So yeah, quite the time zone difference as well, and geographic distance. How's everything in Houston?
Corona.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Of course. Yeah.
It's like picking up here. So.
Oh yeah.
Due to the culture of people in the south part of America.
Yeah.
It's picking up really fast.
Okay. Ooh.
And we can discuss it later on if you want.
But, yeah, in another episode maybe. Yeah, second episode. No, but it's obviously, I mean, that would be fascinating too. But maybe to give a bit of an intro and a recap. So Natty and I, we know each other from Burning Man from 2 years ago, and quite the experience as well. And then I visited Natty in January before all this Corona situation happened. And we spent like 24 hours together in Houston, but it was packed with interesting and amazing things and great conversations. And I learned how to make hummus as well, which I'm still practicing. So yeah, so why don't we, I'd like to hand over to you for an introduction. Who are you? How what's been your journey through life? You know, what would you like to share just to give an introduction to people listening to this podcast, and then we'll focus on the actual topic.
Okay, so I'm so bad talking about myself. I feel embarrassed.
Okay.
Yeah, everyone has his own, disadvantages. This is mine, and you can see it's hard for me. So where should I start? I don't know.
Where were you born?
Oh, got you. Walk me through it. So I was born in Israel. Okay, that's an interesting story. So I was born in Israel. This is my my accent. Up until age 40 something, 42, I was still in Israel. In some point in my life, I started to consult all around the world, and I find myself completely separate from my family. I married happily for many years, and that was really hard on both sides. That for living, you have to travel all around the world. But I have 3 kids, and you see all the family going in one trajectory, and you're going completely different trajectory. Like in some point of time, you feel that you are a visitor in your own house, which is not I don't know. For me, it's not a nice feeling. Everyone's different. So we realized that due to the type of the work that I'm doing, the only way to live as a family was to move to the States. So
right.
In the age of 42, which is not so common, I think we packed our stuff, and after I got the green card, we moved from Tel Aviv, kind of the center of Israel, into Houston, Texas, not because of the wonderful mountains and the beautiful landscape, because there's nothing like that here, just because work related. This is where I worked for Gazprom in those days, and they have an office in Houston. So I moved from UK actually to Houston, which was quite a shift in any way, shape, or form. That's where I'm born. That's where I'm right now, which is kind of related to how I get into Burning Man. Maybe like it would be a nice a recap. So everyone has something that is passion in his life. My passion is around how to make people more happier in work environment. And when I got an executive role, we can go back to all the history, but eventually I decided that in order to make stuff better for everyone, we need to give away the classical hierarchy that exists in organization, and the titles and all the nice thing that, or not nice thing that classical organization are carried for 100 years, and we should work in a non-hierarchical way.
Mm-hmm.
completely non-hierarchical way. And this is how we operated. And when I started to post about it, after I think 2 months, someone comment on my post and said, "Oh, it's very interesting. You should go to Burning Man because this is really a place that is self-managed and self-organized, and whatever you're trying to do, like you can see it in reality in a large scale, not in a scale of 120 people, in a scale of I think then it was like 70,000 people, and that's what brought me first time to Burning Man. I didn't camp with HEX. I camped with another group called Ideate. And actually, it was quite eye-opening for me because this camp ran more like Exxon, and let's say, yeah, very, that different people. Well, now I'm smart enough to tell you that don't judge anyone. Every group find their optimum. And if they believe that this optimum works for them, and if reality shows them that it works for them, it didn't work out for the camp that I camped with, because it was split into 4 different camps. And, this is how I found my new home in HEX.
Yeah.
But I was shocked. I came to learn something, and apparently I came out with an understanding that actually I can teach them something, which is kind of weird. But when you so first time in Burning Man, first of all you're in the shell of your camp. It feels warm and fuzzy, yeah. And when you start to get out and see and talk with other people, you understand, like, exactly. I understood then what I'm talking about, and I think that I learned quite a lot there.
And this passion that you mentioned around becoming happier in a work environment, and and looking at the organizational setup, if you will. I mean, obviously, I know when we talked 6 months ago in Houston, so I know about your way background where this idea first sort of started, or like the origins of this kind of passion or this fascination with it. Can you share that as well? Because I found that totally fascinating.
I can share it, although I'm not sure it's so fit to the spirit of a Burning Man or.
Well, it's part of your history, but I mean, you don't have to.
It's my history, so there's nothing I can do about it. So, in Israel, you have to go to the army, and when I was 18, probably I was a different person, like anyone listening to this podcast or videocast right now. And my passion in life was back then was I want to contribute to my country. And the way to contribute is like, every state every country has their own norm. So in Israel, the norm is like, as you're getting into highest, like more prestige, special units, you're contributing more. Right. So that was my I wouldn't say passion, but that's what I wanted to achieve. And I worked, I read like crazy. I did crazy stuff just to get through the test and get into it. And when I got into it, so you have like the first boot camp, which is like very physical. And then you have the second boot camp, which is part of the unit. And that started to be very confusing in the beginning because there wasn't any physical element there. It was very mental oriented. And it took time for all of us that left to realize that it's all about rewiring our head, but in a better way, rewiring your head so you can work in decentralized. Take all the hierarchical thinking and expect to get orders that you're getting in school because you are getting into the army in Israel when you're 18. So get all of that and kind of erase it and rebuild group of people that doesn't think or act that way. They're kind of molding your brain to be ready to deal with any unexpected behavior. Because eventually
and be able to make decisions within this group, right?
By yourself, as a group.
Yeah.
And the reason that you're doing it is because eventually you're deploying yourself, like you're outside of the borders. And 30 years ago, there wasn't any, like, if you open a radio, everyone will know where you are.
Right.
So you have to actually make your own decision. And if you don't operate as a group, probably you're going to risk your life and risk other stuff as well. So that was extremely focused on that one. To a level, I don't know if I ever told you, I know the SEALs here doing the same thing in the States, but to a level that before you're going to operation and they're getting everyone and make sure that everyone's extremely drunk, to make sure that there's no, when everyone's drunk, the truth goes out. So to make sure there aren't any collision and any kind of glitches between team members like you are six.
That's interesting. So so that everything is taken care, is talked about before you actually go out, or anything, any kind of grudge or communication issue can be taken care of. Okay, so it's like a bonding.
They're making sure that you know how to get along together. Right. And it's a very long training also to make sure that everyone understands that everyone else has different capabilities and skill set that others doesn't have. And we group you together that way because we believe that the combination of the whole is actually stronger. Like the sum of the whole is greater than the sum of its part.
Does that mean that when you went through the second boot camp, or even afterwards, that they actually sort of made some profiles, or they looked at each individual talents and then assembled the teams according to these talents? Yeah,
they're doing it when your recruit starting, and then they're doing more tests. But definitely, yes.
That's really fascinating.
Psychologists are involved in the process. You're meeting with psychologists, like the interview psychologists.
That's really fascinating, because I also worked in consulting for 15 years, and as I when I started, we only had this classical, I would say, almost German idea. It's really ingrained in the German culture. Only try to improve your weaknesses, and no one was talking about the strengths. And I thought instinctively it's a stupid idea, because I thought I need to use my strengths, screw my weaknesses. So this is something in the beginning, and then as time passed, more and more concepts which were more around like this, entered, I would say, the consciousness. And then we actually, and also the company that I worked for, they employed this as well. And then in the end, it was really about the talents, and then looking at, okay, what does this mean for a team? So this is that you experienced that already back then is quite a long time before it entered at least the business environment that I know. Yeah, so it's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, well, it's not because of me. It's like luck. But anyway, I've been there. I done that. I left the army after 3 years happily. I went to university. It's got so I didn't learn anything got to do with computers, but I found myself working in computers. Or programming, and I moved like throughout programming to a level that I was like an enterprise architect, and then I was asked to come, to come and help the equivalent of Forum Security here in Israel, but in the States, but in Israel. Like we have listeners from Israel, so they know what I'm talking about. And at least two, yeah. And over there, so when I joined it, it was a stressful time, because it was the first time that any organization that's doing with counterterrorism met the idea of a distributed, separated, totally isolated cells that working in completely isolation, but all share the same purpose, okay? And in the beginning, no one knew how to deal with it, because you're getting used to deal with organization like yours, which has a certain way of behavior, and you know how to address it. Suddenly, something new pop up, and this something new it takes time to understand how to deal with.
So this was the situation you were facing, yeah?
I didn't face, but I joined I joined them, and that's what they faced. Okay, it started with the 2000 bug or whatever, and it evolved into this. But there was a huge major crisis it shaped the entire foundation because the first time that they didn't manage to be successful, and the implication was people's life. Okay,
of course,
and they didn't have any idea how to stop it.
Yeah. Was this the second? Was this the second Intifada?
No,
no,
it was before.
Oh, before even. Okay. Because I read this book by Ronan Bergman called "Rise and Kill First," and it's all about the clandestine operations by all the different special units in Israel. And this is really fascinating. But because I remember in terms of like the chronological order, that there was one phase where it got really bad in terms of stabbings and bombings. So okay.
The second Intifada was actually a movement of mass. So like most of the Palestinians believe and feel that it's too much for them, and they start to resist the occupation. What I'm talking about was more very fanatic people that for the same cause, okay? But you can protest all the time, or you can kill yourself and kill others. And that was the second approach.
Right.
Started before.
Okay, so this was before. Okay.
Started before. Linger into, like it's always, 9/11 is the same thing. Yeah. So it's started before. It's linger into. But anyway, that's not the case. The case is that when it was unbearable, they brought someone that they thought that can help. Okay. And this someone was a guy that ran the unit that I was part of, and he it took him like I don't know how many months, I don't remember, but not too many. And eventually he collect everyone, and he told us the only way to beat them is to be like them, which was like everyone looked at him like he doesn't know where he falls, where he falls from, like from which planet he actually came. And but what he actually did, he took the classical ideas of a department. I'm talking about like 20-something years ago. Yeah. So he took the ideas of like 2002, 2003. So even more than 10 years. No, 20 years, sorry. He took all the classical department and he broke them apart. And he composed teams that have a skill set from each and every element that the organization has. And if each and every team was assigned to deal with a cell. And he gave them total autonomy to make any decision that they want in order to fulfill their mission. No permission needs to be asked, no, unless that, the stuff that you need to ask because law of regulation. But if you don't, no permission to ask, no. And in a nutshell, that stops it, okay?
Yeah.
Because
so you were part of one of these groups. Yeah.
I was part. No, I wasn't. No, I wasn't part of this group. I was part of more wider attempt that was to create IT architecture that can support all of those groups.
Right. Okay.
Like how they are, how to communicate, how to exchange information. Everything is different when you're working in silos, and when you're starting to combine. It's you have to change all of your system. You have to integrate them. Well, like if someone is not from IT, it's going to bore him for that. But when you're dealing, when you're breaking stuff, you have to have something to compensate.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of effort to put it in place. And without those, so this is a nice example how technologies helps, because without the technologies, it's not feasible to do it. What you could do previously with pen and paper, now you can't. And complexity grows to a level that you need systems to support you. So I was part of that, and that was fascinating to see. It was really fascinating to see, because you're working with the people before. So you see like people that was kind of mediocre, suddenly can make decisions, and they're mediocre by not because of they are mediocre, not by talent, by consequences. And when you change the consequences, suddenly you see that those mediocres are really high achievers. and they can make decisions. And, so it's like you have a profound moment when you see someone one way, and then you see like any change in organizations, and you see someone operating completely different way. And you see the joy in people, it's like back to the passion. You see that people feel belonging, they're part of something, they wanted to participate. I'm talking about government, okay? Not about a fascinating Google environment, yeah? But you saw the same excitement that come out from people due to those changes.
Yeah, so it seems that something really resonated with you there, that this was really something profound that you saw.
Yeah, I can say now, it's like, I can say it now, but back then, no, I didn't thought that way. But now when I'm looking backward, you can see like all the steps, what led you there, which is interesting. And when I moved here to the States and I got the opportunity to lead a team and to make my own decision how I want to do it, the first thing that I have in mind is why not to use what I learned back then.
Right.
And that's, I took it probably like 2 steps further than what I saw. But, I think that what happened 20 years ago is not applied to now. So concepts are okay. But I thought that the main problem with technology groups is that they're siloed. And I thought that breaking the silo and do what I saw in the counterterrorism organization is crucial. And I joined a company that the tsunami of 2011 left it in a very, 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 very shaky environment. Nothing was stable, and all the time you had dealt with problem. So I also wanted to instill what I learned in the army. So I want to create teams that are ready to deal with everything.
Right.
And not people that are following instructions, okay? Because if you're getting used to following instructions, when the instruction doesn't fit the reality, you're paralyzed. You don't know what to do. Yeah. And if everything is shaking, moving, you need to spend your time more. That's what I learned in the boot camp, okay? You need to, so I try to kind of replicate the boot camp in corporate environment, which is extremely hard. But the idea is you have to prepare people all the time to deal with uncertainty, and they need to learn to trust themselves, to trust others in a team environment in order to be able to deal with unknown, because there's always, like, unknown always throw at you curves and wrenches that you never thought.
Oh, yeah.
And, like in Burning Man, it's a really good example because conditions or interaction between people. So we all there, we all know I think what I'm talking about. So on almost on a daily basis, you're dealing with that. And I think the difference between good camp and excellent camp is that excellent camp, people know one each other enough time, and they know one each other advantage and disadvantage, and they know how to work together. And when there is difficulties or conflict or something unexpected pop up, instead of bouncing head, you're collaborating together.
Yeah. That's a great point, actually. That it's almost sometimes it seems to people sort themselves into the right roles, and they are also encouraged to do so. And then as long as you bring in that sense of responsibility for the greater good or for the group, and then you apply yourself to that, then it seems to be really a measure or like a secret of success, I would say.
So one of the key elements that I try to create in that group, in the company that I'm running right now, or I don't know what I'm like, the company that I'm part of right now might be better definition is self-organization, okay? And it means that you are not nominating anyone to do anything, but no, when you're meeting your friends, no one nominate anyone to take any role. But after time, naturally, everyone is gravitated to different element, and everyone knows like what he's gravitated to, and when he needs help, he knows to whom you need to go to get certain help. And the fascinating thing that although people doesn't think that way, if you take a group of 10 people or 6 people in organization setting, and you just take a 2 steps further, and you don't tell them what to do, and you give them their autonomy to evolve. In the beginning, it takes time. Like chemistry, they're like there's heat and pressure released, but after a while, actually, what he's created is so much better and natural and connected that when any type of unforeseen event will bounce into this group, they will know how to adjust themselves and move forward. And while all the groups that I saw around me that are rigid and based on you have to follow certain rules, otherwise you're going to be punished. When something unexpected came, and every organization have unexpected things that are coming, they just it's like the people that get shocked and paralyzed. That's what you see. If no one told me what to do A, B, C, D, E, or they're stuck with A, B, C, D, and it brings a catastrophe. No one thinks, like thinking goes away. Yeah.
I can totally relate because in the first moment, the first thing when you have a classical hierarchy is that people look towards leadership to tell them what to do, instead of already starting to do something and reacting according to if they have the remit to be doing that as well. Totally agree.
Well, one of the main paradox is this is like people looking for leadership, but this looking for leadership, it's actually one of the main reasons why they're suffering.
Yeah.
And they can't, it looks easy because I don't need, so no, people eventually look at themselves all the time. So as less I can blame myself, or as less I need to find why I have a problem and why I'm wrong, it's better. So having having a character that you're looking at, and you're just doing your best to help this character, puts you in a very convenient place. It means that you are never wrong. Okay, he told me what to do. I did the best that I can. Sorry, it didn't work out. It wasn't my decision. It was his decision. I just helped him. But that's what makes people. Like my father went to work, came up upset. I went to work, came up upset. My son now is going to work, he's coming upset. It's like, it doesn't go anywhere, yeah? And one of the main reasons is this, so you crave to have this leadership, but on the other hand, this leadership prevents you from actually being responsible. I think it's all the fun in the world is to be responsible. So you are creating a family, or you have friends, or you have passion in life that you are pursuing, not because you're looking at someone else, because you're looking at yourself, yeah? Why on earth, if that exists outside of corporate world, why can't it be inside the corporate world?
True.
There are companies who went that route, and I think they're much more successful than others. So they are much more successful than others. But it's a major shift. And the nice thing about Burning Man, that in any camp that you go, you see different flavor of it, but you see it. You see like all the characteristic that exist in organization or groups that are, they have decentralized control, they are creating their own properties dynamically, they are self-organized, they are self-managed to a level of the individual. So one of the things that I like the most in Burning Man is the principles, because the principles of Burning Man are completely aligned with the principle that I tried to, I went to speak in Burning Man second time, about how actually the principles, how I managed to implement the principles of Burning Man in reality.
Right. Wow. Okay.
No one. I didn't do it like 1, 2, 3, 4. Like no, not. I didn't say self-reliant. Okay, but I said self-managed. Same thing. Okay, if you're self-managed, you have to take care of everything about yourself.
for anyone who's not familiar with these, it's 10 principles that Burning Man is based on, and you can look them up on the internet. But I think you just mentioned one, the self-reliance, or the radical self-reliance. There's some other ones which are really important about radical inclusion and radical self-expression. So they make up 10, and they're really the foundation of the whole event.
And all of them we implement. So in the environment that we bought, like self like inclusion, and definitely what was the third one that you mentioned? Sorry.
Radical self-expression and
expression. So self-expression, which is very hard to implement in environment. Like how many fights I had with HR because I told them that people need to express themselves. But expressing yourself, that's what gives people the feeling that they are part of something much more bigger. Yeah.
Yes.
And everyone listen to them, and there is openness, and everyone talks in corporate world about creativity and the need to give people the ability to fail and blah 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 blah. There are so many buzzwords, but in reality, there isn't any. I think I never saw any foundation in the organization level, like management models or HR approaches, actually support them. They're not. They're supporting one thing, risk averse.
Yes.
Like what I need to do in order to prevent the company to get into trouble, which eventually cause some other problem, like Hertz disappearing or Toys R Us disappearing, or any other company that eventually got to Chapter 11. It's because of that. Okay? It's because of rigidity and unwillingness to let creativity or install culture that enable people to say, like the basic thing, like I don't know so many environments that people will stood up and say what they really think. When I started, one of the things that I was kind of asked to do is to let people create an environment people can think what and say what they want, okay? And after 6 months or a year, I was in a meeting and we discussed something, and I said something, and everyone in the group jumped in, and my boss was in the room, okay? And everyone jumped and said, "Oh, this is wrong. It shouldn't be done that way." And I'm getting like ding, and I'm looking at my phone, and like Ed is writing me, "How did you manage to do it in so short time?"
Maybe just to capture one thing, just in terms of the context. So basically, so you moved from this first company from like 2002, 2003, and then to this was back in Israel, and then you joined this company in Texas, and this was the consulting part mostly, and when you sort of
no.
To apply.
So, between those two, between the Israeli non-counterterrorism and joining a company in Texas, for 13 years I traveled all around the world.
This was the consulting part, okay?
Yeah, and that's what caused me to move eventually to the States, and luckily we are living together now.
And what I wanted to ask you is, in terms of, I mean, I think everyone can at least picture, like, because everyone knows it, this classical hierarchical structure of, that you see in any fast food restaurant where there's one manager and then you have a team of different people. So, and we just learned about, I think, two things that you mentioned, which are really important. How this can lead on a bigger level to, first of all, this lack of satisfaction or happiness, because it's frustrating and for the individual person. So, and what is the effect? People might, who are maybe very talented, they might just leave, or they might, they're not motivated. So they are not the best that they can. And the other one is something which we can maybe look at later on, is this kind of almost like the strategic risk, that if you're managing a certain set of objectives and you're trying to avert all the other risk, then you might be focusing, you might be sort of managing that general purpose, but then you're not prepared for a more bigger shift that maybe comes from the outside, because the market changes, or the customer values change, or the demand changes, competition changes, all these kind of things. So this is really a fascinating thing. But before we go there, I wanted to ask you one thing. So when you started first applying these new principles, or these principles are more a decentralized structure, how can you explain the role of leadership in first setting this up and then also in maintaining it?
So there is no role of leadership there aren't any managers, simply does not exist, okay, including myself. I moved to a cube and I said like everyone else, no titles, no, like everyone is, so the message that you're pushing outside is everyone is a leader. Everyone has responsibilities and everyone can take leadership on his responsibility. No one's going to tell you how to do the responsibilities that were assigned to you. You have to do it by yourself. And it's profound. Like it's you can't go, when people coming from the outside, it looks so weird. I can't go and say, Vincent, I need you to do that. Mm-hmm. It won't work because you can say, I don't want to do it. Mm-hmm. And then who's going to do it? So what it brings you eventually, no, it's intentionally designed in a way that it's forced people eventually to merge together. It's like you're taking two different atoms and now you created this new molecular, okay? And there is like a reaction, but the reaction creates something better and bigger, yeah? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So it's the only company that I know that, or two companies that I know that have the same thing, but their company scale is Zappos or Tomato. There's a company that is their tomato manufacturer. They call Morningstar in California. Mm-hmm. All the rest, if in the beginning people are shocked. It takes them time to grasp what's going on because they're so getting used that. I think that I told you, like in the beginning, people will come, here's the HEX one. So in the beginning, people will come and ask me a question and I will do that. Like I will flip a coin. Yeah. Do you want to know the answer? If it's head, it's that. If it's tail, it's that. And after 2 months or something like that, people stop coming. So they understood that I'm not going to tell you what to do. Yeah. If you want luck to tell you what to do, it's okay. Like you can make your own decision, the same thing.
And
so
how
it's
do
like,
mm-hmm.
It's fascinating because it's different.
Of course, yeah. And how do you? But how are the groups created, and who makes the decision about the purpose of these groups?
So you started with set of groups that we created together over time. So the way that you're doing it, you're thinking what is the functionality of your organization, or what is your purpose, what you're trying to achieve. Mm-hmm. And then you start to split it into like functions and sub-functions and sub-functions, and eventually every function end up as a group. Mm-hmm. And you're creating roles within the group to split different responsibilities or assets that each and every function needs to manage. And you assign it to someone, and then like in the role level, he is responsible for his role. Like you can assign him, so the group can assign tasks to each and every role, but the role no one tells the role how to do its work. Mm-hmm. So you're starting with that, and every group can change at any point of time how they're structured. So they can add people, they can remove people, they can change, they can add roles, they can remove roles, they can create subgroups. All the evolvement of organizational structure is per group. So one group can start like 5 small groups and end up like one group of 5 people. And one group can start with one group of 5 people and end up with a conglomerate of one big group with 5 subgroups, and each subgroup has like another 10 subgroups and crazy stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And it's all adjusting and changing all the time per reality, and there's no control on that. Okay, the control is local, but it's like an organism. The local or each and every group react to the environment and are adjusting themselves. All the other groups that related to them are impact from their adjustment, so they're adjusting themselves as well. Mm-hmm. So you're kind of all the time like a co-evolution pursuit. Okay, everything is always in flux. There's no stability. Okay, all the time something is changed somewhere to adjust to some change, and the structure is morphing all the time. There's no, you don't have your roles and responsibilities guaranteed to be the same in each and every day. You can see your, like, what is your current one. There's a tool to support it. Even today, like the way that we are doing it in Galaxies, you can see your current roles and responsibilities, but no one guarantee you that it will be the same tomorrow.
And how do, I would say, in a way, how do negotiations take place between, because I assume that negotiations in the sense of, who does what or how should we do it? How does that take place between people, but also between the groups?
You mean conflicts?
More about aligning on what to do next, or communicating, or prioritizing.
So prioritizing done per group. Change a little bit your mindset. Okay, each and every group responsible for something. So it's very clear what they're responsible for. So they might consume services from others, but there are definitely others are not part of what they're responsible for. There's like clear boundaries. So if I have a project that, I don't know, needs to do something, needs to create a fun event for all the individuals in the group, everyone that needs to, all the skill set that needs in order to do that are forming a new group. And this is what group is responsible for. They might consume services from other groups, but it's very clear what they're doing. Okay, so they are prioritizing their tasks, they are negotiating between themselves how to do stuff, and they are consuming other services. Now, what is common is that two groups consume services from the third one, and the third one prioritize it in a way that they are not happy with. And that's what I call conflict management. Okay, so if that happened, there is a conflict, and the way that we addressed it is by a vote. So in the level where the conflict there's no hierarchy, but there are kind of a fractal structure that every group is contained with other groups, but every group has their own autonomy. So in the level of the fractal where the groups meet, all the members of this group vote. And so there's like there is no leader. There's a leader, but he's not the manager. Okay, like he doesn't have any HR and managerial role. And there is another.
So he or she cannot make any decisions. He or she can bring people together, but doesn't have any more power rather than to facilitate this negotiation.
Exactly. Right. And there is another role within the group that he's representing the group in like the higher group. So all of those representatives are voting. And the representative of that group, if it's tie, is casting his voice twice. So there is never tie. And everyone knows that once the vote is being done, whatever decided, it's like manager, you respect it and you're moving forward. Which I think it's much more like, I saw it's much more beneficial, and the decisions are much more, over time when you measure them, you see they are better, simply because it's, 5 people or 10 people that are more diverse, they have more experience, they have more knowledge, they see the world differently. So usually when you have to make a decision, everyone, like, you're not, there are so many points of view that on the table, and the actual decision, at least listen to all the alternatives, something that me as a leader or you as a leader can't simply grasp everything in your head. We don't have this capacity to look at all this complexity, to make a decision, just not there. So this, like, most of the stuff that you alluded to are more conflicts. So, there might be a conflict in a group, they will resolve it internally, and there might be a conflict between subgroups, so they will get into the level where the fractal hold all the subfractals, and it will be resolved there. But like very fast, by the way, a conflict resolution, same as manager decisions. So we didn't choose to go with everyone needs to agree, because that's something that slows you down in a very negative way. But a vote is very simple, takes not a lot of time. Everyone can depict their point of view or say or tell their point of view, and then there's a vote, and whatever majority agree, you're moving forward. Kind of, I didn't see the same thing in Burning Man, but it's kind of the same thing in our camp. Yeah, if there's a decision need to make, everyone says what they want, and eventually I pay attention that someone's speaking the majority, and then we are moving forward. Yeah, so no, it's not. Even our camp in Burning Man is less, is more hierarchical than the structure that I ran.
Yeah, I wanted to share one thing that I remember from one of the best experiences I've had in my work environment, which relates to how you described, when you have a purpose and you have maybe different roles, but no one can tell you how to do something. This was actually the best sort of traditional leadership or being led kind of situation, where I joined a new project and I had a clear task, and my manager said, "Hey, this is the task. I don't care how you do it, just that you do it. And the only other expectation have is that if you have a question, come and ask me. That's it. Now you can do it." And this was so empowering, and this was amazing. This is the best experience I've had. And then it was so fulfilling. It was so much fun. I could structure my own time. I could, talk to the client people, to my people, and just really sort of progress. And I think looking back, it's, I think at least one element which really propels you, and why it's so fulfilling, is because you feel like you're in control of your own destiny, and you can, it's more of an incentive to mobilize that motivation to do things well, because you can, because first of all, there's no one you can blame, if it doesn't work. Of course, sometimes, there will be impediments, of course, but you kind of know that, if you approach it with a positive attitude, and if you want to, and you like the task as well, you like the role. I mean, you shouldn't go for something where you think, okay, it's totally, beyond my skill set. But in that case, it was just absolutely perfect.
Yeah. You felt it.
Yeah, definitely. And
you hear many people says, okay, that works for knowledge people, but not for like blue collar. And then I'm sending them to read about Morningstar, because Morningstar is like blue collar. All you're doing is you are picking up tomatoes, and then you're processing the tomatoes into a paste. It's production line. And if you go and Google them and listen to the videos, you everything that you heard so far, you hear there as well. And this is a successful company that for 40 years is the leading, like that, the number one tomato paste producer in the States. Everything that consumed here from all the byproducts of paste tomato, they have a percentage in that. So it's 1% feasible in blue collar, like in any environment. I'm involved now with the steel manufacturer. So like those are groups of 14 people on a production line that hammer steel or welding it. Same idea. You just give them this autonomy, and so they used it in order to deal with the safety and safety, like rocket sky, and then they pay attention not just safety, also people like every element that impact bottom line went up. So this is amazing. You walk on production floor and you see people, like you never saw. It's rare to see it. Yeah. So there's a lead. same, but it doesn't have any managerial. They are hierarchical though, but the team itself is non-hierarchical. Like within 14 members that right now running the production line, it's the same as I described, and every guy play a different role, and tomorrow he can play a completely different role in another team. So no silos, no, I'm just doing welding, and I'm just doing QA, and I'm just like everyone. Same idea, yeah, same idea, but in a very hierarchical environment, which means that you can deploy those ideas also in a hierarchical environment, which was new for me in the last 6 months.
Yeah, I mean, maybe for our listeners, I mean, what we haven't touched upon yet, or just briefly, is that you actually turned this passion for this topic, or for this challenge into your own business idea, if you want to call it.
Well, let's be honest. Okay, I tried to turn it, and then I had to pivot. So there are few people that will take those ideas and implement them.
Yeah.
But you can. What those ideas teach you is how to deal with complexity. So you can take your understanding of complexity and help other people to resolve their problem, and then open their eyes to other opportunities. So that's what more we are doing right now. Just adjust as much as they are willing to adjust it, but not selling people the idea that you shouldn't run with hierarchy, and there are better ways how to run organization that the current managerial system that used to be good like 100 years ago, but right now, from any perspective, like you talked about people unhappy, so that's the reason why 30% are just engaged worldwide. In the work, which means the 70% are not engaged anymore. But that's reality. Like I wish I could sell it as a service. So maybe in the future, maybe I don't know, maybe Corona will create a crisis that will drive people to be more open. But right now, you can't. So you can create your own business. The question is, if you can live out of this, you can't live out of it. Okay. You need to be more pragmatic, and you need to find ways how to help people in their day-to-day difficulties, and just open their mind to the facts. So you're helping them, but you also open their mind that there are different ways to look at stuff. And you hope that it will help down the line, but doesn't necessarily.
What I wanted to ask you as well is based on, I mean, looking at this idea or the way that this can also work. There are also some other elements that are interesting. For example, where do maybe these groups get their budget from? If they have a budget, and who decides how much it is, and then obviously what also comes next is also some other questions around. Is there, how do you look at performance of the group, or incentives, and even salaries? So how would you describe that whole element?
So actually, Vincent, every element in HR and management, every element is changed. Like if you're running a group like that, nothing is the same. And so budget, every group is budget themselves, send it to a group that's responsible for budgeting. And if the budget is within the limitation of the company, it's okay. And if not, they are asking people to reduce their budget. Well, it's very similar to what you see in classical organizations, just that there's no one that eventually, it's a group that making the decision. They're responsible for that. So they're making this, it's just like the CFO. One guy makes the decision. What was the second one?
Around performance, salary, incentives.
So let's start with performance, okay? You have an app, and when you are interacting with someone, you can give them feedbacks, okay? So you're getting actually 365 feedbacks from everyone that you're working with. And those feedbacks and rating that you go throughout, quarter, they are not an indication of your performance because you're trying to shy away from performance.
Mm-hmm.
It's an indication how you can become better. Okay. Every group has, we worked in a system that every group has 5 metrics. And those metrics measure tangible elements that can prove that you are moving forward the purpose that you had.
Okay.
This is your performance. This is how the group, as a group,
Yeah.
get the performance. And this is also the incentive.
Mm-hmm.
So you actually incentivize people to work together, because the classical incentive in the States, probably, I don't know, in Europe as well, where Vincent will get a lot of percentage because he's an extreme contributor, doesn't push people to collaborate.
This is because this is a fascinating topic, because it's even the company I used to work for. I mean, it's a huge consulting company, and I think up until the level before, like the 5th level of the hierarchy, I think the incentive to make people work together in a good way, or to encourage people and to grow them, and have a collaborative atmosphere works pretty well. And then it seems that there's still that top level where people get incentivized by sales, that they have to, sell projects to particular clients. They still haven't worked out a way to combine, this individual sales or this individual incentive with this incentive to collaborate. So I witnessed these ideas around, well, if I'm talking to this client, I don't want anybody else talking to them, or even knowing that I'm talking to them, because then they might get credit for this sale that I would be making.
That's bad, yeah.
Yes, exactly. Totally bad. Because then you end up with with not the most amount of competence and knowledge to address the client's problem, of course, because if it's only one person talking to them, and the problem might be requiring a huge host of different elements, different competencies. How can you mobilize this if you're not even talking to the right people on our side? But
the incentive push you. So that's a problem with incentive. When it's like personal, it's push you to not to collaborate. Okay, so that was one main element, and it was like not easy to people because. Especially in the States, the culture of I'm the hero and I can get into the broken city, shoot the bad guy and resolve the problem and move forward. It's so ingrained in people's mind that just a thinking of, no, we need actually a team of people to think about it. Like the first thing that we'll hear is like, it's communism. And then like stuff like that. It's weird, it's strange to people, but I think Corona is the best example that there wasn't any lonely. Let's put it that way: all the countries that managed to resolve the problem worked as a team. There was a team that drive decisions. Okay, all the countries that kept on using one-guy decisions, especially where I'm talking from. Doesn't matter political point of view. The reality that we are stuck with it. So you can't deal with complex problem by yourself. It's not the world that exists 100 years ago that we see in the movies, Hollywood movies, is not the world that we are dealing with right now. And you can't. So that's a problem, and we try to address it. Compensation. It's actually even much more complex than you think, because if you involve anywhere, so you could start, you can actually learn new skill set, and you can have multiple knowledge in. So like IT, for example, we had people that started as a networking expert and ended up as developers, people that started as developer and end up as security expert. So you are pushing people to wear multiple hats, to get this multiple disciplinary knowledge rather than just one. So when you're getting into compensation, it's creating very interesting problems because how I'm going to be compensated as a QA guy or as a I don't know, security guy. Huge gap in compensation. Okay,
Right.
I was hired to do A, but now I'm B. So how you compensate me? Or even if I have like 2 high-level skills, how you're going to compensate me? I have a unique knowledge. And the way that we address it is we took, so we had profiles for different level of skill set. And we use salary.com, like no hidden data. And the average of salary.com was the main point. And, you know, depends on your group performance and like which impact you. You can go to more than 50% up until to the other end or to the other side. It depends on how you, but it was clear. And now most of the people were on the 75%. Otherwise, that was the reality. Most of the people was on 75%. You also want to make sure that people are not, income is not their problem. They need to deal with other problems, not to think about income and not continuously looking at other places and where they can have better income, which is other problems. And that was the system. You got the highest compensation based on, from all the stuff that you've done, you got the highest compensation available right now in the market for you. And, when people came and complained, I told them, okay, go to salary.com and check it out. And if it's different, I'll be happy to hear and we will do something about it. And, I never heard anything back. So, I don't know. That's how we dealt with it. Probably other people dealing with it differently. But you can feel that every element you have to think differently. It's not it's not common.
Is there? We looked at how you maybe to do a bit of a not a wrap up, but like to look at what we've covered already. I mean, you learned a lot about how you learned these concepts from really sort of early stage in your careers and the things that you experienced, and also looked at these the theory and the structure behind it, and now covered these elements around how these groups work together, how they negotiate maybe even, and conflict resolution, and now these topics. Are there other topics that you think are really important that we haven't talked about yet in this thing that you feel really passionate about in this idea?
So there's another one, okay, and that's everyone calls it complexity, so let's call it complexity. And this is really fascinating because there are science around complexity, okay? And usually those sciences get into discipline, disrupt it, and move forward. I think the last disruption...
How do you mean that? How do you mean science, that complexity is there, or how you measure complexity, or how do you mean?
In the mindset that I'm talking to customers, so I'm not. So there are 2 sciences that explain how complexity... So first of all, complexity is a stage in life of each and every organization. It's not a mess. It has a much more profound understanding into it, okay? And there is like chaos theory, which is more focused on what are the conditions that create complexity. And there is complex adaptive system, which is more focused on, okay, how organization or systems in nature and not in nature are successfully thriving in complexity. They're like certain attribute that you should have in order to. So it's like explain how you can deal better with complexity. Okay.
Yeah. This is what you. I remember the 2 books that you recommended to me when I read them before we met up actually. So there's the sciences, So I misheard you. So the sciences, the one is the chaos theory, how does complexity arise anyway, and then the complex adaptive systems is at least one theory to address how to address it.
True. or the ecosystem. So if you're from Europe, it will be more, the name is more system dynamics.
Mm-hmm.
But
Okay.
same. Every area has their own lingo. But what's fascinating is that while, for example, the United Nations, they use those concepts in order to reduce dramatically poverty. Yeah, I think that they, for I don't know how much, I think from 20 something to 9 right now. I don't remember, but there's like dramatically, or 30 something, I don't remember the numbers, but there was like a dramatic decrease. And for some reason that is above my understanding, those concepts are not being used by business nor management. So it simply does not exist. If you go and, like, if you are listening to that and you're a leader or manager or whatever in any organization, you probably never, you can't explain to me how complexity is created and what are the conditions that favor complexity and how to manage complexity. This is like, you understand that it needs to be, but you don't know how.
Yeah.
And it's not fascinating. It's depressing actually, because we are dealing with complexity, more and more complexity. COVID is one example. On the other end, we are oblivious completely on anything got to do with it. Okay, while other disciplines manage to very nicely use complexity in order to resolve much more complex problem than organization. Poverty is like much more complex problem than organization. Worldwide poverty.
Yeah.
So that's something that drives me nuts. And the only light in the end of the tunnel is that every couple of years, or more than a couple of years, every 10 years or something like that, those two sciences are getting into one discipline and disrupt it completely. So last time was 20 years ago, and it was with economy, and it was the Center for Institute that kind of helped us. Yeah, that helped them to maybe it's 30 years ago. Sorry. And I truly hope that the same transition, or I'll be one of the things I'm trying to do is to open people's mind that in order for you to become a better, like in order for you to protect the people that you're working with you, in order to protect your investment as a person in what you created, you should spend time and effort and learn those sciences and how they're applicable to the business world, which is like one of the main problems. So that they are, they're more physics oriented and more biology oriented and more mathematical oriented rather than business oriented. But they're all talking about universal rules, okay? And those universal rules apply to boiling water and apply to a group of people. It really doesn't matter. And if you spend time to think how that applies to that, then you're starting to get a very deep understanding of how the complexity within your organization is working. And when we speak with people, we give them a nice story about how the United Nations dealt with some island with like some kind of diseases, which led to a problem that created real catastrophe, because they had predefined solution. They just used DDT. And when the problem exploded to pieces, the next time that they were asked to help, they didn't have any predefined. So they came with the right solution. And every organization, regretfully, has tens, if not hundreds, of problems like that exist. And they are causing so many problems and frustration for people. And you don't even aware that they are there, not talking about you don't aware what are the tools to resolve them. And obviously they are. So that's the main unbelievable element, that they are there. They are waiting. You can leverage them. And you can find all of those unforeseen impacts that happen from good decisions that someone made in the past, but now create a lot of instability and resolve them. But for some reason, like I think that you're going to agree with me, no one is doing anything about it. Yeah, it's there.
Yeah. Well, I noticed it. I noticed it when. I mean, first of all, this is really some really cool advice. I think as well to if you want to understand this more or address this more, that to look at these theories, at these sciences, to on the one hand make yourself be more aware of this, and then also make that see why that such a system can be much more sustainable, but also build more resilience into the people as well. Because of course, I mean, the thing is, maybe people don't want to hear the truth sometimes, but most of the time they should be spoken the truth towards, right? Yeah, you should tell them the truth that maybe something will be chaotic, maybe something will be complex. There will be events that we cannot predict and that we will not be able to foresee. But since we are setting up our mental pathways or our mental structure and the organizational structure in such a way, we can increase the likelihood that we can actually survive that.
Yeah. So one of the things that throw people apart is the fact that actually complexity is very ordered. So complexity is not randomness. There's no randomness in complexity. Okay. There are rules that create complexity, and those rules then create order, and then complexity, and then order. And it's pretty fascinating how it's working inside. And just if you go and read about it, and then come hopefully next year to Burning Man and watch the dynamic in your camp, you'll see that everything actually exists in reality. Like all of those dynamics exist. You can see how you know that chaos or complexity arise if you know the conditions, because you see it applied on people. You see how they are starting to behave, and how certain conditions started to emerge, and those conditions are bound to create a complexity. Or you can see how certain condition in place that enable people to deal with this complexity or unexpected behavior, and get out of it stronger, while others not, and they're getting out of it not. And it's pretty on a personal level, everyone has his own passion. Probably you see it's mine. But for me, you saw me many times sitting in the coffee area and watching. That's what I did. It's fascinating. You see, sometimes probably I'm smiling for no reason. When I smile for no reason, I just saw reality. I saw the theory happen in reality in front of my eyes. Yeah.
Yeah. And how does that? How do you see that? What happens?
So, getting into examples. So let's give you one example. Okay. Every group of people has, let's call it a attractor, okay? Something that attracts their behavior, okay? And usually leadership of a group or camp will set up certain focus. And usually you start with one focus, okay? So let's say we need to do everything to finish all the build up until Saturday night when everyone is coming. Fair?
Yeah.
When there started to be, in some point of time, someone decided, okay, that's not enough. We need to add another attractor. So it's not enough to do it up until everyone is ready. We also need to do it in, I don't know, in a way that it will wow the environment. We are really unique, okay? So what usually happens when you have two different attractors is that people start to attract to one and sometimes to the other. And over time, their behavior start to be unpredictable because they're confused. They don't know. It's like, two stars and a moon that sometimes roll around this one. And
so this attractor, is it an objective or is it a person, or can it be both?
It's usually an objective.
An objective, okay.
It's objective.
Okay.
And you see it in the camp. You see how you're starting with, the most important thing, I was in the build. So the most important thing is A, we need to get everything done by. And then when probably leadership start to see that everything's going to be ready, so they are started to, okay, but we need to be neat. We need to show everyone that we are a unique camp. We want to attract people, and you started to build other element that this is their purpose. If you remember the big circle that we had 2 years ago. And then you start to see chaos. Like you start to see how it emerged, because what I should do right now, I should be focused on this one, or I should go and do more shades. Like I don't know.
And who makes that decision? Yeah. Do I make it? Do I make the decision? Do I ask someone?
Yeah. So just one example, but or in just one condition, there are like more than six. Actually, there are 6 conditions that will create a complexity or chaos if you want to get into it. But this is just in one example. So when you sit or when you are part of it, it's it's different when you know the dynamics. It's like, I don't know, it's like psychologists sit and look at a bunch of people and see psychology creating reality. It's the same thing, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, and this is really fascinating. We've been talking for quite a while now, so this is incredible. So, and I think we should probably try and come to a conclusion. So, I wanted to ask you maybe to wrap up, because we covered so many things. What is there like what kind of a message would you like to give to people who are interested in this kind of topic, or kind of like a advice from your experience?
So I think chaos, and so learning about chaos theory and complex adaptive system, regardless of what I spoke, I think there are like 2 topics that drive the world right now. And be familiar with them is beneficial for in any way, shape, or form. So I would recommend people to do that. I think everyone that listens has the capability and willingness to learn. So I think it's a good way to get into it. There is a fascinating book that's called On the Edge of Chaos. If you want to start your journey, it's like more story than science. So it's very easy to resonate with. I would go and learn about companies like Zappos or Tomato or Morningstar, or hire the Chinese refrigerator manufacturer that has a very unique structure as well, and see what they have to do, or what they are doing and how it helps them. And I think that's enough. That's like, you can't. It takes time and effort to learn it all, and you don't need necessary to learn it all. But if you reading this book and if you look in these companies and you start to see how things are connected and you feel connected to those elements, then there's so many things that you can do or learn in order to increase your knowledge. And I'll be happy to help. But first of all, just see whatever, what fascinating me, not necessarily fascinating others. So I would start that way. Just try to see if it resonates with you.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Natty. This has been really a pleasure. It's been really cool to capture this and also make it available, share it. Also, this is my intention, with this series of podcasts. That I think there's so many incredible things and knowledge and experience that we have in our group to spread that message. So thank you very much, and hope we can do this again sometime and see how everything develops.